Good morning, everyone. We're going to start our meeting here in a little bit. If it gets hot in the back of the room, feel free to open a window, so get some air. It's 9 o'clock. Let's please start our meeting with a moment of silence, please. Okay, first thing on the agenda is we'll need a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda. Support.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, public comments. If you have anything you'd like to address about the agenda today, this is the time to do it. If you're here for the public hearing, there is time during public hearing to speak. So we ask that you reserve those comments until then. If there's anything else on the agenda you'd like to speak about, now's a good time. Seeing none, we need a motion to go into public hearing for road vacation in the alley of Tainer in section 6, township 77 north, range 16 west, on the 5th p.m. Mahaska County, Iowa is described as follows: the alley in block 2 between lot 11 and lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the alley between lot 10 and lot 11. The vacated alleys shall be conveyed to Tainer Community Church, the adjoining property owner. So again, motion to go into public hearing for closure of an alley in Tainer.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of going to public hearing, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're now in public hearing. Mike? Do you have any comments about the road, the alley closure?
Not that I've heard of. I know last fall the Tainer Community Church contacted us. They're looking at doing an expansion onto their property, onto the building to the south, which would, I don't know if it'd go across these alleys or at least be close to it, and they asked if we'd vacate it. It's basically the parking lot now.
They use it for parking lot now.
Just cleans up some paperwork and they'll apply it. All we're doing.
Did you receive any written comments?
I did not receive any comments on this.
I have not either.
Either.
Okay. Any further discussion? We need a motion to go back into open session.
I make a motion we go back into open session. Support.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of open session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We need to approve a resolution 2019-13 about the vacations in the alleys of Tainer.
I move we approve resolution 2019-3 regarding vacations of alleys in Tainer.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Do you want to hold the second and third hearings?
In the past, when we've done ones like this, if there was no objections, I don't believe we did.
Okay. You want to hold one more public hearings if you want to step forward, or you want to just accept it?
Let's hold one more.
Okay.
Ain't a big deal, is it?
No.
In case some people just hear about it now.
Yeah, but I know in this particular case, the church owns both sides of the alley.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But just to be fair to everybody, let's hold one more.
Sounds good.
All right?
Thank you.
Yep.
Date and time.
9 o'clock,
Your next meeting?
May, yeah. That work for you?
Yeah, works for me. All right.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Deanne,
Thank you, Ray.
there you are, sorry Deanne. We'll let that schedule, we have another public hearing at 9:15, so we have time.
I'll go over a few things, what we've been working on this past month. Young professionals continue to hold trivia nights monthly. We've had great attendance the last couple of times, so that seems to be going well. Last week went to the Iowa Rural Development Summit. That was in Grinnell, so with this creative placemaking, Oskaloosa is doing some housing committees that we're working on, just trying to see what other opportunities are out there. So Emily, Ann and I did attend a day last week. Educators in the Workplace, that will be taking place June 19. Here in Mahaska County, we have the Environmental Learning Center with Dave Sedadek, Stan's Greenhouse, and in Musco, participating so far for the tours here in Mahaska County. Ag Day was last Friday, a little bit chilly out at the fairgrounds, but all the third graders in Mahaska County participated in Ag Day. Golf and banquet coming up. Ann, of course, invited you last month to the banquet. If you still want to attend, registration is due by April 26th. The Booty Trail, working on the second round of brochures. Met with Carla and Joe from Pella last week to start getting new pictures for the new brochure. Revolving Loan Fund annual reports will be due to USDA by April 30. We'll get those in. The 4-H FFA barbecue at the Southern Iowa Fair, that will be on July 18 at 5 o'clock at the pavilion as we had in the past. If you're available, supervisors, take with us that night. That would be appreciated. So we'll be working with Farm Bureau again doing that meal. The tourism book that we do every other year, working with the Herald on that, getting that for this year. The development partners within our office continue to meet, working on workforce, housing, economic development. The Ladies' Night Out here in Oskaloosa took place on March 28th. This was the second year that we did the event, and we had a great turnout. We had almost double what we had last year. Working on the new billboard out by Westlake coming into town. We did receive the grant in 2018, so if we don't have a final design yet, I will ask for an extension for 3 months until we get the new design done. So just a few things going on. So. Any other questions?
Do you look at Pathfinder on that housing deal? They got some deal working on.
Yes, they have a forum coming up in May, and Anna and I met last time after she was here at the meeting. So we'll be going to that forum in May as well.
You looking to get on there?
Yes, yep. There's just a lot, housing's a big thing right now in Iowa, so everyone kind of has different things going on, so putting the pieces together of what we can do.
The state of Iowa itself's gotten more involved, I think.
Yes, and Iowa Finance Authority, yep. Debbie Durham taking over.
Revolving Loan Fund, that's going well. So there's people that came and talked to me and we've kind of forwarded them on to you.
Yep.
In different
We
projects.
have a couple come in, so we'll see if they come to life or not, but we have funds in there. We're gonna have one since East Market last January, so if we had another one, that'd be good.
Okay.
Thanks, Deanne.
Thanks, Deanne. Dave, you got 5 minutes.
That much?
Yeah. Go.
Morning.
Good.
Okay, the main thing for the ELC, we're mainly moved in. I still got some of my office stuff I'm in the process of moving this week. We have done the official change of address, all that stuff. So Russell's basically now just our shop, and all our administration's out of the new building. We're gonna start working on the landscaping, and the drainage has never been right since we started that project, and I talked with Mike and Ed, and they're gonna come out and help us look at trying to fix it so we don't keep silting over the bike trail. We followed the plans exactly as they were drawn, but you know how that goes sometimes.
So it's a surface runoff that's causing the problem.
Yes. And so that's something we're gonna address, and they're gonna help us do it, so that'll be good. Some of the bigger news, the phase 2 of the displays, a lot of the main display stuff will be coming in mid-May. That'll include the aquarium, the Native American display, the big table for the mammoth things, things such as that. Right now I did get, at the end of last week, some progress photos. We're gonna see if Brian will help me get those blown up, and we'll put them on like boards out there, so when people come out the building, they can kind of see what's going where. We're hoping to have our grand opening towards the end of May or early June, and trying to work with the chamber. We don't want to step on anybody else's things that are already scheduled, so we're trying to work that out. So that should be fun. Finally get, light at the end of the tunnel. And there's still some things out there that we're working on and tweaking and stuff, but we can actually see progress. I can almost smile.
Everything's on schedule, right?
Yeah. Next week, Monday, I just had a request from Congressman Loebsack's office. He wants to come out and do a tour of the building at 3 o'clock. And then the Friends of Conservation do a lot of fundraising for us. They have their fundraising banquet that night. So far, when everything's said and done, the Friends group's going to have about between $135,000 and $150,000 they've spent on things for displays out there in the building. So, that's been a positive. Then, again, more things have happened that aren't, it's public support, it's not tax dollars doing it, so that's been great. We're getting ready to try to put our food plots in, our burning. We've got about 40 acres of native grass plantings to do this spring. We're going to try to do another night burn. This one will be out at Russell Wildlife on the south side of the road. It's just going to be a matter of timing when we get the right wind and availability for help. So we'll let all the news outlets know with as much advance notice as we can, social media, all that stuff, see when we do it, because that's usually a pretty popular thing. Evening Access Campground will open noon on the 26th. Normally it's the third Friday, but since the third Friday of April is a Good Friday, we get a whole lot of camping over Easter weekend. And secondly, Tommy Renderham is graduating from Law Enforcement Academy on Friday. So he'll officially be, a peace officer working for us. And so some of us will be going up there to his graduation ceremony. So that's good for him. So far he's done, a super job up there. So I'm, pretty proud of what he's done. Other than that, it's just normal springtime. You guys are farmers, you know what spring's like. You got to go when you can go.
Sounds good. A lot of things going on.
So
A lot of balls in the air. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I said
You know
about
what
balls.
time Loebsack's gonna be there?
He's supposed to be there at 3.
3?
Next Monday, the 22nd. That just happens to be Earth Day, I think. And if I get those pictures blown up and stuff, put on these out there, I'll make sure and let you guys know.
Yeah, that'd be good.
What's the fundraiser they're doing?
It's the Friends of Conservation help us, like the extension office, stuff like that. They try to help with conservation things. They just have like a Pheasants Forever type banquet thing, so they don't have an auction. And like right now, one of the things they wrote a grant, they're trying to get a bunch of recycled plastic benches. We have some recycled plastic tables out there right now, but they're recycling garbage bags. They'll be out at the Musco, where Musco does the like electronics deal out there at the parking lot. They'll be out there collecting garbage bags, and they try to write a grant to get, there's this recycling place in Iowa Falls that builds benches and picnic tables and things, and they get a grant to try to help us with that. They've gone out and done some fundraising. Like Repel Corp donated $100,000. They went through the Friends Group as a vehicle to do it, and they're helping to pay for some of the displays with that money. They're a 501c3 property. Great, thanks.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. About a minute before 9:15, so once we get there, I think it'll be time for public hearing. So we'll need a motion to go into public hearing concerning the matter of Request to establish, use, and maintain a shooting range at Black Oak Place located at 1243 180th Street, Section 9 of Black Oak Township.
I make a motion to go into public hearing.
Support.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. We're now in public hearing. Is Wendell Campbell here? Okay. Morning, Wendell. Join us.
Morning.
You want to join us, please? Sure. We're in public hearing. Just so the public understands, I had a conversation with Wendell last week, and spoke with Wendell again, asked him to come back. Wendell is the chair of the Oskaloosa Planning and Zoning, and this is more of a zoning issue. Mahaska County is not a zoned county. If we were, the zoning commission would be dealing with this first, and then it would still come to supervisors to yea or nay on the final say. So we basically I asked Wendell to come. We had a conversation, but the other two members have not heard it, and let everybody else know really what would be accepted or needed. I guess the process, if we would zone, and I guess what the county supervisor would be looking at as we move forward, to give us ideas of how the process should maybe possibly work and things like that. So I appreciate you coming, Wendell.
Yep, and like we spoke, you know, I as a board of 7 individuals on the Planning and Zoning Board, it does come down to our recommendation to the City Council as far as that goes. We don't have a ultimate authority on what is approved or disapproved. It's whether it applies to the zoning and what's there. So I can speak on behalf of the process. Try not to get into any as far as opinion goes, because I know there's a lot of different opinions, but the black and white of what's submitted and how that looks.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We talked earlier, and I don't know if you just want to take it over from here, if you want to talk about what we talked about, or if you would just...
Well, I can just tell you the normal process that we go on by the way of the City of Oskaloosa, and Sean and Akilish could probably tell you exactly the steps involved, but from a planning and zoning perspective, a site plan on improvements or a change of use would be submitted to staff. City staff would then go through that as it pertains to the current zoning as it would be adopted. And then as it comes to planning and zoning, generally, once it gets to us, there's probably been a couple of different renditions or reiterations of a site plan or of plans that say, okay, here's how the City of Oskaloosa interprets that, or here's the requirements to that. And so once it's come to us, generally it's been cleaned up to the point where we can say yes, it either does fit or no, it does not, based off of what the zoning is there. Because there are, you can go through the zoning code of the City of Oskaloosa, and it'll tell you turning radiuses and driveway widths and parking requirements, and even as far as even building materials. We just recently passed a material code, a design criteria code that helps us in establishing what we want to see along the corridor. So once it comes to us, city staff has had their chance to go through and make recommendations based off of, well, here's the black and white of the code, not opinion, but here's what the requirements are. Where the locations of those buildings are in relative to setbacks, where they are on the site, is there any infringement with neighboring properties or with neighbors? So when it comes to us, it's a pretty, it's a pretty concise item, whether it doesn't meet the zoning or does it not. And my discussions with Mark, I think you gentlemen are in a tough spot just based off of you don't have the black and white of a zoning to make that determination on whether it fits or not. Right now you're having to make that, and again after the fact, now that these improvements have been made, what do you want to see, in regards to what's there, where is it relative location to buildings? I know there's some state requirements, or the DNR would say there's some requirements based off of relativity to shooting a firearm in relation to a neighboring house or structure. And I don't think it calls that out. It's whether it's a structure or not, whether you have permission to shoot there, and then those locations are determined by a distance. So I guess if you have some questions in regards to the process and how that works, or how we would view, I can't say how we would view a shooting range from the standpoint of, I don't know that there would be in the City of Oskaloosa zoning that would be acceptable, and that's why you're seeing these in the more rural areas. But, you know, just from a city zoning perspective, I don't know that there's ever a zoning code that would fit in. And for now, the city of Oskaloosa has an indoor shooting range. I know there's some special requirements with that as well. And that's more in the building design more so than it is the location by the neighbors because of, you know, basically maintaining or keeping that in, you know, inside the building. So, do you have any questions or anything that I can answer in regards to?
You talk about the site plans, you're talking about when the information is submitted, you've had engineers say and sign off and say this is appropriate site distance from the entrance exit. You have engineers approve the design of the building.
I don't know that the city engineers approve or disapprove. All they can say is here's what the city's code requires, whether it be distance from the road, distance from other auxiliary structures. They can say here's what the black and white of the code says. Does your site plan meet that or not? And if there are special circumstances where it does not meet the current code, or there are what we consider hardships within what was designed. I also sit on the variance board as well, so if there is something that doesn't conform by way of the letter of the code, then you also have the opportunity to go in for a variance on that because of whatever special circumstance may exist based off of the individual circumstance. Because, again, the code is a guideline, but it's not going to catch 100% of everything. There's always going to be some special circumstances that you have to account for as well, and that's the role of the variance board to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the city engineer signed off, but the applicant usually has an engineer or some qualified person.
Correct, engineer or architect, yeah, somebody takes the responsibility for, generally in buildings, it would be the design. If it's an architectural, it could be a site planner, land engineer, land planner, that would say, you know, we're taking the responsibility from, they're the ones that did the layout, did the drafting, the CAD, the things like that, and this meets the requirements that were set forth.
Some experts, so to say, it's already signed off on meeting the safety qualifications and everything that's needed.
Yeah.
So the city is not approving the safety stuff, it's already, somebody else already put their name on the line.
Yeah, and I guess that would be more so from a safety perspective, those sort of items, whether it be traffic guidelines, so DOT has a guideline that you have to follow that the city has adopted. So more or less it's been designed to that standard is what that professional is taking responsibility for, not necessarily that they're guaranteeing that it's safe, but that it meets DOT standards or that it meets ADA standards in the case of architectural plans. So this meets the guideline that's set forth.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Any questions from the other gentlemen? Or? Okay. Well, I'll stick around.
I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming again. And just a fairness for everyone, I just want you to know I have called our insurance company, and they're probably leaning on the same lines as what Wendell spoke about. We're needing a bunch of information. I spoke with some DNR officers, and they're kind of agreeing with what Wendell said, what our insurance company is saying. And so I just want to be aware of that. There's a public hearing. And so if you have any comments, unless you guys have anything first you'd like to say. I will open it up for public comments. I'm probably going to limit it to a minute or two per person. And so if you'd like to speak, now's the time to do so.
Guess this is the hot seat. Right?
Yeah, I gotta get you on the CRI.
I'll get right to it since I don't do things in a minute or two very well. So I want to just address that.
Excuse me, who are you?
I'm so sorry. Keith Van Donsler. I live on the Evans Road here west of Oskaloosa, a resident of Mahaska County. I'm the assistant head coach of the Pella Christian Clay Target team. And I guess I first need to apologize to you guys. My daughter's an avid shooter. I'm a coach on the team, and I had no idea, just like Mike and Sharon, that when I take a clay target machine that I've been shooting on for years and build a 10 by 10 yard shed around it, I needed to do another step. So I'm in the same boat here. I have a skeet field in my yard, on my farm, and use it for my personal use and my daughter's training, and my team comes out and practices on it as well. So. When we build it, however, and I didn't bring the document with me, but the National Skeet Shooting Association has some guidelines that you were referring to on safety of gun ranges, specifically skeet fields and so forth. And essentially, a skeet field needs to have a 600-yard shot fall zone. And the DNR, if you talk to them, they'll follow those same guidelines. And so basically from the center shooting position, which we refer to as Station 4, if you can imagine an arc that goes like this, you need to go 300 yards that way, 300 yards that way, 600 yards in a circle. And my field meets that requirements, as does Mike's. So from that standpoint, I don't see, I mean, these are the formal guidelines for a skeet field that I would see that would be used for every gun club that exists. You know, other comments that I would make is, you know, when you look at facilities like New Pioneer Gun Club in Waukee, when I stand on their field and look out, I can see the roof of 100 houses. And real estate is just booming in that area. You know, I would encourage you to drive around eastern Mahaska County here where the Isaac Walton League is, and how many new houses have been built on that road since the gun club was formed there. Actually, there's more houses built on that road than your typical gravel road in Mahaska County. And I find that just to be kind of interesting as well. From an insurance standpoint, I carry insurance specifically for this, as does Mike, I'm sure, because he referred me to the insurance company. There's a specialized insurance we have for liability on what goes on in our clubs. And when the school teams are there, actually they're insured through what's called the Scholastic Early Target Program as well. So we're kind of double insured when it comes to that standpoint. So I really don't see any safety issues here. I can recommend some folks that can attest to that. I think we've built within those requirements. But range availability is one other thing I wanted to talk about. I think it was referred in the last meeting that Marion County Sportsman's Club, and there was some discussion about that. I was a party to a lot of those conversations, and just to kind of keep it brief, you know, they've been a great club over there, but you know, it's a mixed use deal. They've got clay target ranges, and downrange from the clay target facilities are the rifle and pistol ranges, so they can't be used at the same time. And essentially what we were offered was what I would say would be the equivalent of 5 high school basketball teams being asked to use the same gymnasium on the same night with 1 ball. And they offered something to us, but it really wasn't a workable situation. That's why I built my field, why Mike did what he did, because this sport is really popular. So I just wanted to hit a few of those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Morning, Jeff Ridley, live at 1984 Fisher Avenue in Mike. In the first public meeting, I spoke and tried to emphasize with you how vital and important Black Oak Clays is to the fellow shooting team. How vital and an important role that Mike and Sharon have played in emphasizing both firearms proficiency and safety to my daughter Josie through the fellow shooting team. They have also reinforced my wife and I's belief in good sportsmanship, being responsible, and doing the right thing. No need to beat that same drum. What I wish to contribute today is my hope that with your leadership as supervisors, you will keep this hearing on point and focus on why we are here. Simply and solely to approve the land improvements that Mike has made to his property to enhance Black Oak Clay's range. To not get caught up in distractions with all the stuff that's being thrown at the wall, hoping something will stick. I hope that you will recognize that Black Oak Clays has and is taking the high road. All of our members and supporters are being very respectful and mindful of the process. We vow to continue on that high road for our youth, despite the profanity that has been publicly directed towards our young athletes in the hallway at the last meeting, despite the attempted intimidation by the opposition of calling the Pella Christian schools and threatening withdrawal of funding to stifle student participation because they allowed PC shooters to attend the last meeting. Despite the divisive solicitation in the neighborhood with tainted information in hopes of increased opposition to this matter, we will continue to take the high road during this process to ensure that our rights and our liberties are preserved. We will also take all necessary action steps to fight to preserve our rights and our liberties. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
I know there's got to be more. There's a few more names on the list.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
I'm Luann Cook. I reside at 25577 County Road 762, Memphis, Missouri. And I also am a co-owner of a club. My husband spoke at the last meeting. I want to thank you for letting me speak. I'm a little confused. I thought that the hearing originally was about improvements that Mike had made at his club, but it seems as though it's getting more and more into because of neighbor complaints. You're looking more at that. So you've heard many testimonies from young adults and adults on how Mike and Sharon have given time and dedication back to their community on helping young adults grow in responsibility and maturity. I think it is important for you to know how Mike and Sharon have been very good neighbors. They've taken time to help feed and water neighbor horses and dogs while they're at a second home in the Ozarks, and secondly, keeping an eye on their home while they're gone. Mike has bladed the road to eliminate the washboard effect and chuck holes that occur. He also does snow removal on 180th Street to make sure all the neighbors can get out and go to work or to the grocery store. He has plowed driveways as needed to help their neighbors. They are very good neighbors. And in closing, I've talked to the NRA about this case. It is currently a county improvement issue, but depending on the supervisor's decisions, it could become a Second Amendment issue. They're waiting for the county's ruling and further actions before they get involved with one of their attorneys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm Byron Ecoff. I live in Pella, about 4 miles away from the range. I do help coach the PC Eagles. I just wanted to share a petition. I'm in support of Black Oak Clays. We have 199 names here, just the last couple of days passed it around, so wanted to give that to you guys, okay?
All right.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm sure nobody recognizes me. My name is Greg Lamka. I come from the New Pioneer Gun Club that was previously mentioned. We're in Waukee. And yes, we have we're bordered, we're only 91 acres. We are bordered 2 sides by homes, 1 side by a RV park, and the other side we have 2 schools built adjoining our property. And we shoot skeet, trap, and sporting clays. And so, we can coexist. It does happen. The reason I stopped here is that I am also an SCTP coach. I also teach classes at Ohio State University. I'm actually retired. And so that's a couple things that I do. And so thinking about this, I can't address the technical issues here, but I certainly want to support Black Oak. The SCTP program is very important. The coaches go through training. I've been through DNR basic training. I've done the NRA level 1 coaching. I'm a range safety officer. So a lot of effort goes into teaching our youth today. And what we're really, the youth, when they come to us, some want to learn basic gun safety, how to shoot a gun. A lot of the younger students have never shot at all before. We have some that want to become better hunters, and we have others that want to compete. And so a real advantage to this program is you do not have to be a star athlete to come and shoot. There's a lot of programs out there for youth who are exceptional in certain areas, and they practice and they go year round, and if you're if you're not an exceptional youth, you don't get to beyond the team, with some of the other kids. So part of what we're doing here is expanding the opportunity for youth to participate. Part of our coaches training is what they call double goal coaching, where yes, we teach how to win and how to compete in a situation here, but we're also teaching life lessons. So there's a couple programs within this training that talks about mastering a task. In other words, focusing on a particular task that they can control, that they can, in this case, learn to shoot. And they call this ELM, which is what you teach the students, that they have to have or put in some effort. They have to be willing to try. This isn't just going to happen. They have to be willing to learn. Some are less willing than others. Some think they already know it, and you have to convince them a little bit. Everyone that's coached here has run into that a time or two. And you teach them to understand that mistakes are going to be made. I mean, that's part of learning. You go along, you try something, and you make mistakes. So the other part of it is we talk about honoring the game. And that we talk about they have to have respect for the rules, they have to have respect for the opponents, they have to have respect for the officials, and they have to have respect for the teammates, but they also have to respect themselves. And they have to set their standards, how they're going to behave regardless of how other people are behaving around them. So, talking about all that, this program is very, very popular. In 2018, there were 4,000 students, athletes here in the state participating in SCTP programs. So very, very popular. From 2015 through 2018, we had about 1,400 new athletes per year, because obviously you have students graduating out.
And we need to keep it going a little bit so we got this out.
Okay, so I think what I want to say here is, the reason all of this works is the hours and the facilities that people make available for these student athletes. So when we think about this is really a youth development program disguised as a shooting operation. And so it really goes back to being part of a team, developing our youth, and they're having fun through learning something. In this case, it's a shooting sport. Okay? Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
This last fellow spoke about respect, which is so important to everybody in our...
What's your name first, please?
Mark Shaughnessy, thank you. Sorry. Respect is so important for everybody to have for your fellow man and friends. And I just don't see in this whole situation where there's been any respect shown for others' property. And any prevention or attempt to take information and to help mitigate some of the effects of this situation. So I just don't feel the respect has been there for the other property owners in the neighborhood. This is a commercial range. It's not a personal thing. It's turned to an LLC and a commercial endeavor. And I just don't know how in good conscience people continue to do this in this manner when they know it adversely affects so many innocent people. The shooting range is for fun and entertainment for most and profits for another, and it's not by any means a necessity. It appears, and I'm not for sure of this, I got this off a website, that the charge for registered events is $45 for 100 pigeons, or 45 cents for each shot. One of the listed results on the web page was 20,000 shots fired in one day. 20,000 times 45 cents is $9,000 of income for that day. So this representation for the kids, and it's all for free, is bogus. We in the neighborhood pay the price for the fun and entertainment of others, as well as the profits for the range. The loss of our property values goes into the pocket of the range. The property values, quality of life, and privacy also. I think our purpose here is to approve a plan that I don't see that's ever been filed. We don't know any of the details on how this affects the environment, how it affects neighbors, property values. It doesn't say what time of the week is acceptable, what hours are acceptable. And it should be being filed for the initial startup of the range. That's what the law says. And each improvement to the range also needs to be addressed at that time. And the idea of the law is to approve these additional changes to keep it at a manageable level for everybody. So when it gets to that point, you know, we can say, hey, it's for the kids. It's a worthwhile thing for the kids, but when it turns to more than that, then that approval should be addressed at that time.
Sir, keep it going, please.
Okay.
I limited to 1 or 2 minutes for
Yeah,
already, so.
I was just kind of thinking that last guy. All right, that's enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Good morning. I'm John Hager, Bettendorf, Iowa. High school coach for the Pleasant Valley High School trap team, and here in support today for the Black Oak Clays. I wanted to give a couple of minutes, reiterate a couple of things that have been said by a few of the others. I'm also the sporting clays representative for the Iowa DNR, the advisory board for the state. The DNR serves as the state advisor for the SCTP, which is a team-based youth development program, using clay targets to instill life skills. Those life skills include discipline, safety, teamwork, ethics, mental focus, self-discipline, and self-confidence. The clay target sports are the fastest growing sport in the United States. And my role in the advisory board is to assist in the development of introducing athletes and teams to the sporting clay sports. As a coach and advisor, the biggest challenge we have is in the state is finding the facilities to be able to introduce and have the kids out hosting training sporting clays and other pieces throughout their high school endeavors. Black Oak is one of 3 locations in eastern Iowa, being from the Quad Cities, that's within a reasonable drive for us to get to and get back home in the same day. So, speaking also as a father, 2 boys, one of which is out of high school now but still shoots competitively. This is our father-son time on the weekends that we get a chance to get out and come in. With Black Oak being one of only a few facilities, we are fairly limited in the areas that we can do it. So, in close, I want to say attracting youth to the sport will continue to be challenging without access to locations like Black Oak that have done a great job in developing a location to support youth sports, teach the values and all of the pieces that we need to help bring up the next generation of kids that will be involved in the sports for us. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Sonia Henningen. I'm brand new to this sport. My son started just a few months ago, and this is the only thing that's taken him away from Fortnite video games. And it's the first time where my son and my husband, he's a hunter, have been bonded over this a lot more. Nathan, since he's started this club, listens better in school. And I like it that he's learning gun safety since we have guns around the house. My husband's hunting. So I just appreciate the one-on-one coaching that Clays have given to my son and opportunity for the sport. So, and we're live in town, so there's nowhere to go. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lloyd Newmark, 1179 180th Street. I'm not here to dispute the kids from the shooting sport. I think it's a great opportunity for them, especially for kids that are not involved in other activities. It teaches them respect and safety for firearms, plus it is in a competitive setting. Why I am here is to dispute all the problems involved with having a shooting range where it's at. Number one being the noise. I would like to enjoy all my outdoor and indoor activities without constant banging all day and into the evening. I can hear it above my lawnmower when I'm mowing and I'm hard of hearing. I can eat supper in peace or watch TV, it disrupts everything. Traffic and dust is non-stop during practice time and competition, and if the traffic comes dust, the dust is unreal. I built my house in the country for peace and quiet. The only house here were Mark Rishadas and Gary Vandermoen, and I don't remember anyone asking me if I wanted to shoot range in my backyard. My property value has went down because who wants to buy a house next to a shooting range? Like I said, I don't dispute the kids have a place to shoot. There's plenty of money being made, and with this money, it should go towards dust control. And I think there should be set times when the range is open. I don't think they should start shooting before 8 a.m. in the morning. I think it should be done at 5:30 in the evening. There needs to be established time set. I'm sure if you were to interview everyone living in the section of the shooting range, you would not get a very positive feedback.
Thank you. Sir, what was your first name? Pardon me?
Who's your first name?
Lloyd.
Lloyd?
Yes.
Good morning. Since I can't hear back there, I'm not sure if I'm repeating what I said already, but anyway, I just want to put my 2 cents worth in to say, all these people are talking about this trap shoot, how great it is. We're not against the trap shoot. We're all for a trap shoot somewhere else. But we don't think it ought to affect our lives each and every night. And if they want to go out there and trap shoot, I think we have common sense to enjoy, let them enjoy target shooting, that type of thing. Before it's become a commercial trap shooting area, I'm very much against that because it hurts too many other people. It's just at the cost of someone else. We're all for it at their house. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Lindsay Laughlin, and I'd like to first say thank you, gentlemen, because you have been doing very well in handling this situation and putting in lots of extra effort, and I think that's appreciated by everyone, by myself, by Mike and Sharon, and very greatly appreciated. So I have here some recordings that I would like to share with you all. This was taken, was it it was April 2nd, on Tuesday night in my front yard. And the decibel reader on my phone, no, it has not been calibrated. but it was reading 95, up to 95, and over 85 OSHA requires hearing protection. And you can hear how constant the shooting is, and that's for hours in the evening. And then like on this Saturday and on this Sunday, on Saturday they started at 8:26 in the morning. And when we left our home to go to dinner with friends at 4:30 p.m., it hadn't stopped. On Sunday it was the same song, different day. So anyhow, as Sonia had said, it gives a wonderful opportunity for her husband and her son to spend time together. Instead, when me and my kids are trying to spend time together, planting trees, enjoying the great outdoors, in our garden, we're constantly hearing for 8 hours a day that bang, 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 constantly. In our home, the decibel reader is at 50 to 60. No, it is not calibrated. However, like my dog's barking, it actually reads their decibels about, what it should. And even this weekend, again, it was reading in our front yard anywhere from 80 to 90. And I know that, yes, there are lots of people that stand and give great character judgment on Mike and Sharon, and that's not what we're here to judge. For every 10 people you give me giving good judgment on their character, I can give you 10 giving bad, and you know what? People would line up to tell you the same about me and line up to tell you all the same about yourselves. Our point is, in the Waukee site, that people are building there, yes, but they had a choice. So if you choose to build your home around a gun range, that's a choice. But when you already have an established farmstead, my father bought the property that he is on in 1988, and then the gun range moves in, and none of us got an option in that. So if you are a resident of Mahaska County, will you please raise your hand?
No, let's just address the board, please. No, just address the board, please.
I would just like to, if my demonstration was simply to show how many people would not be in this room if the matter had been taken care of properly in the first place. And again, like I said, it's just become this big emotional balloon. The Second Amendment's been brought up and everything else, and that's not what it's about. It's not an attack on any of that. It's simply been how, as tax-paying citizens, that we can have our homes and our lives invaded so much by something that we don't get a say in. Just seems very absurd. And thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Vanninghorn. I manage Black Oak Clays. I live at 1243 180th Street, Hall, Iowa. I would like to start by clearing up a statement that Mark DeShadas made on the record at the last public hearing. And I quote, "Black Oak Clays and the shooters used to shoot at Marion County Sportsman's Club in Knoxville. They have rules there, hours and days they can have a shoot." Larry Scott on the board said Mr. Vanninghorn told him he did not like the rules there. He said, "Come over to his place in Mahaska County where you can do basically anything you want. There's no zoning or laws," end quote. I have never said anything like that or implied anything like that to anyone, much less Larry Scott. I only know who he is, and any conversation we've ever had between the two of us has been in passing. I fully support the Marion County Sportsman's Club and still shoot there occasionally myself as well as my team. I would also like to point out why we are going through this process. It is to get approval for the 2 skeet fields. It is not for deciding whether or not Black Oak Clays will be able to stay open or closed, as some might think. According to Iowa law, section 481A, we have the legal right to target shoot on our property and do not need county or state approval for this, as the opposition would like some to believe. However, we do need supervisor approval for the 2 improvements, the 2 skeet fields. We exceed all minimum requirements for a 300-yard safety zone around both fields. Both fields are built to National Skeet Shooting Association specifications. We are more than double the state minimum distance to the nearest residence, which we also have the support of our closest neighbor. This area is also surrounded by large mature trees. All shot fall is on our property. We do not have any high-powered rifle range or pistol range. We do not have any events during inappropriate hours. There's no traffic down any neighbor's private lanes, property, or driveways. We have taken noise impact into consideration when laying out these fields and any other shooting stations that we set up. I also find it surprising that some that oppose the range also target shoot on their property, which they have the right to do so. One also raises dogs, which you hear barking at all hours, day or night, but they have the right to do so as well. There is no doubt there is overwhelming support for Black Oak Clays and all other shooting ranges in Mahaska County and the state for that matter. I have not come across one single thing that would lead me to think that we have not exceeded all safety standards for shot fall, building specifications as laid out by the National Skeet Shooting Association, amount of acres required, distances from residences, and what the state law allows us to do and protects what we do. I also know that this issue has gotten a lot of attention and many are watching closely. I've gotten numerous phone calls and emails from all over, as I'm sure you have all as well. I also realize that the way the land improvement process is set up by state law, it puts our board of supervisors at a tough spot. So far, everything that I have seen from our supervisors is that they are taking the time to look at all the facts and getting all of the information they can. That is all we can ask for. I also want the board to know that my door is always open if they have any questions or concerns. I also have information and building specifications on skeet field design and layout, which I will present to you. I also have a flash drive with decibel meter readings, calibrated decibel meter readings that we have taken at different locations that I would also like to present to the board. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Anybody else? For the record, I would like it noted for the public to know that the supervisors did hold an open forum Friday afternoon. Days ago at Black Oaks. Steve Wonders, myself, and the county attorney was present. And so we have seen the improvements. And so I just want you to know we are, like Mike said, we're trying to get all the information we can, trying to figure out what our responsibility really is, and go from there. I will say, from my standpoint, I have talked to another county that this situation happened similar about 6-7 years ago. They just said, no, we're not interested. There's 40 houses around it when they built it, and they said no. I've got another parts of another county. I don't know all the details yet, but to my understanding, the county signed off on a rifle range. The berm was not built high enough. A shot went over the berm, fragmented, hit a little girl. So you can see where I'm at this. We need to make sure that everyone's safe. That's the only thing I'm looking into. I don't know what these two gentlemen have done. I'm just telling you what I've done. So I will say the county redid our clock a year ago. The clock weighs, give or take, I don't remember, 1,500 pounds. It had to come down to work on the clock. The contractor would not hang the clock up until an engineer came and signed off on the concrete to re-anchor it for liability purposes. So you understand where we're at. If someone gets hurt out there and we sign off on the improvement, someone gets hurt, who are they coming after? Because we had to sign off on it. We set precedent here and we give it okay, and someone builds one 1,200 feet away from a cattle lot. Is it going to be the same way? The cattle trample themselves and die and then go through the fence and get on the road and kill people, then who's liable? I'm just saying these are the things I'm working through of what's what. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just trying to weigh out all of the things and all the whole picture of really what's going through my mind. And so if you guys have words of wisdom, I'm here to listen. Yep.
Luke Seeley, live in Bell, Highway 217.
just the comments, just listening to you. I think it's more about the improvements, right? So Black Oak Clays is still gonna exist, right? I mean, there's still sporting clays. You can still pull a shooting device out or a trap machine out and still shoot, right? So it's still gonna be a shooting range, and just like behind my house, I'm gonna still pull a trap machine back, and you still have the risks. My kids are at risk. I live, my property butts up public hunting, and I listen to shooting all day long. Yes, yep, there's times that it could be potentially annoying, we get it. But when it's all said and done, I love the sport, my kids love the sport, and we enjoy it. So it's what it is. But again, back to the main thing is we're wanting to keep it going, but it's about the ski fields, right? So as you're kind of making the comments, I can't help but think about Black Oak Clays is still going to exist, and sporting clays is still going to be shot.
So it goes back to, if you don't improve anything, by code, we have no authority to sign off on it, so we're not liable.
Right.
If we have to sign off on something and we don't do our job well enough and someone gets hurt,
right,
they're going to look at the owner and they're going to look at it as a deeper pocket. I'm going to guarantee you they're coming after the county.
Right. I get that. I'm just saying, when you're talking about ski fields. That's what we're talking about today. Thank you.
For the record, I went out yesterday to Mr. Van Nord's place, Sharon, and I talked to Mark yesterday, so I was out to see what was going on. They had a shoot yesterday.
Yeah, I went and visited. I didn't go to your place exactly, but I drove around the neighborhood just to see what it was all about. So I went out there too.
Dave Cook, Memphis, Missouri, 25577, County Road 762. The issues that you're fighting has already been defined. If you look at the criteria for the sport of ski, they have the regulations set up. You're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill when that's already been defined, and the specifications are there. That liability is not on you anymore, because when you rely on the specifications, which Mike has done, that's a non-issue. Now, if he'd have put the range too close to a neighbor, you are correct. Those specifications, you'd have to deny his request for those improvements. But with the specifications that's been defined by the National Skeet Shooting Association, the ATA, the Trap Shooting Association, and National Sporting Clays Association, all that criteria has been defined. And if he meets that criteria, it's a non-issue for you as a board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments?
Point of order, you can only speak once, I assume?
Yes, please.
Morning. My name's Noah Booth. I live at 2198 Eaton Avenue in Lighton, Iowa. Shoot for the Pella Christian Clay Target Team. I just want to stop for a second and think about, it's kind of cool what we've got happening here. It's too bad, but it's cool that we've got kids getting involved in this and, you know, really showing that they care and showing public support for something they're passionate about. I think it'd just be a shame if that was all for naught, so that's all.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Karen Duncan. I live at 1789 Cordova Avenue. I don't think anybody in this room is going to dispute the
fact that the kids get a lot of enjoyment and that shooting range is great for them. What I'm here to dispute is the constant 3 evenings or more out of the week, and every Saturday usually and every Sunday, you've got that constant boom, 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 because we live right east of Lindsay. I feel like in order to keep that going, and I doubt that some of these other shooting ranges you're talking about are open that often. This is far more widespread than the students, which that's what it's been all about. I feel like if it continues, we should have a barrier, sound barrier put up, or possibly cut down on the hours, because it is a definite nuisance. It shows no respect for the neighbors, and I think we need to consider that.
Thank you.
My name's Bree Vandenor, and I live in Pella. The thing that you guys were talking about earlier was the safety issue of it. And I would just like to point out, you know, Mike has done everything to meet or exceed the safety aspect to this. And he's got a family living there too. He's, you know, gonna have grandkids running around. He's not going to do anything that's not safe or that's going to possibly harm someone else. He does nothing but do the most he can to support these kids and to give them every opportunity that they can. He's always been big into safety. I recently lost a cousin to a hunting accident a couple of months ago, and he was a part of the shooting team and enjoyed it quite a bit. And I know that hit you know, Mike really hard, because he just preaches safety and wants these kids to learn everything they can. I know that he wouldn't put up something that is going to compromise anyone's safety or to hurt anyone or, you know, cause any issues. And so I wanted to reiterate that he's not going to put anything up that's not going to be safe. If it's not safe enough for his family, it's not safe enough for, you know, he's not going to put anything up that's going to compromise that. And it just gives such a great opportunity for all the kids around that maybe wouldn't have that opportunity otherwise because they aren't able to travel to practice or things like that. So yes, I understand that the issue isn't about how much support the support or that it's a safety issue and it's a liability for you guys. But I just hope that you understand and you see how much time and effort and how much safety he really has put into this, and all the time that he's devoted towards it. And it's not giving him anything more than the satisfaction of helping out these kids. And he's going to do that to the best of his ability, no matter how he has to do that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Starber, Harvey, Big Metropolis. I wasn't going to speak today. I tend to be a little bit quiet about in these kind of meetings. The safety issues. I'm a level 1 coach. I'm also a chief range safety officer, which allows me to teach classes for the range safety officers, and I was able to get more than a dozen this year for each for 4 of the clubs in our area. The safety issues are non-existent. Every one of us that are range safety officers, chief range safety officers, that allows me to go to any club in the United States through the NRA and teach these classes and look for things and set up their range safety officer or their standard operating procedures. Safety is not an issue. Your liability is not there. As Dave said, those guys have big orders and they've set those standards, and as long as you follow them, you're not liable. It's just the way it is. It's not a ramshackled old barn that nobody used a level on to put up. It is fine quality craftsmanship. And if you look, everything is perfect. And he takes great pride in what he does. So the liability thing I do have a little problem with as a public citizen. I think you are well released. I know you're nervous. I know everyone's nervous and we all want to do the right thing. But that standard's already set. As far as the barking dogs, I can sit there and shoot, and I can hear the barking dogs. So it's not really a problem. As far as the voltage, or the, excuse me, I'm an electrician. As far as the dB meters, the ones we used are calibrated and industrial dB meters. The ones that was used was a app off the phone with barking dogs in the back. The standards were not set. The ambient noise wasn't checked. So those tests that were brought to this board were unacceptable. They were not right. Ours are correct. And I believe you'll probably have some information in that. So, sorry if I kind of rambled on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Sharon Vandenor, I live at 12431 80th Street. I feel like some people have alluded that we shoot every Sunday, every Saturday. I have a website. My dates have been posted probably since the end of December, first part of January. We have 4 SCTP events on Saturday. They do not start before 8 o'clock. I would have to check score sheets to see when we were done, but it was probably close to 4 before we were done Saturday. I have, from March to September, I think there might be 7 events listed for a Sunday. I didn't take the time to look. If you go to the website, you'll see them. We started at 9 o'clock, last fight out at 3 o'clock. One might be listed at 8 o'clock. It is not every Sunday from April to November. You can go to my website, and my dates have been posted there since probably, like I said, the end of the year or the 1st of January. And it's not every week.
Thank you.
My name is Boyd Mathis. I'm from Pella. I'm one of the assistant coaches. My daughter's on the team, 3-time state champion. My son is too young to be on the team, and he is counting the minutes until he can start shooting with Mike. I hear a lot of complaints about noise up here. I didn't realize that was the issue you guys were here to determine. If you look at Mike's flash drive, there's some calibrated figures there, as Scott said. You brought in your own expert witness from your zoning commission that basically said he has the rules of black and white on what's allowed.
Just to correct it, we didn't call him for an expert.
Okay.
We're looking for advice.
Okay, sure.
If this would go to a zoning commission, all this would have been done 6 months prior to this thing come to a public hearing. It would have been laid out. We're only trying to figure out how to move forward.
Exactly.
Because this is in the zoning part of the code, not in the home rule, so to say, the supervisors. We're not used to doing this zoning.
Sure.
So we're looking for advice on how this would normally go through. That's why I was looking for advice on how things should or would have normally went.
Absolutely.
And so we're just trying to figure out the best way to move forward.
One of the things he said and reiterated several times in his comments was that they have a list of rules that's black and white on what you're allowed to do and what you can't do, setbacks, et cetera, et cetera. Those type of rules have all been followed from the Skeet Association, the Sporting Clays Association, American Trap Shooting Association, the Scholastic Clay Program. All have their rules on range layout, and those have all been followed to the letter. So just like he said, as long as they fit all the criteria, everything else falls in place. I've talked to lots of other range owners in the last few weeks since this started happening. No one else was aware that these rules existed. There's ranges all over the country and all over the state that don't follow the pre-approval process. It's a little known law, so we're trying our best to get this taken care of in time, you know. But if noise is an issue, can I have my neighbor's dryer fan shut down at 8 p.m. every night because I have to listen to it howl? No, I'm a farmer too. It's part of life in the country. During the fall when the grain is drying, the fan runs all night. It's very loud. I've never once complained. It's part of life, you know. But the county's or the co-op's putting anhydrous on at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, it is what it is. So sometimes there's some annoyances, but I think the numbers speak for themselves and double the minimum setback according to the DNR, the specifications for the skeet range, et cetera. I think everything is going to fall into very black and white. Thank you.
Thank you.
conversation, we'll have to have a motion to go back into open session.
Make a motion to go back to open session.
Support. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Any action you guys like to take today?
I'd like to have more time to talk to Andrew.
And our insurance company's never got back to us yet, have they? So I really don't want to get canceled out either. We just have to see what they come up with. So they did have some concerns or not when you talked to them, or?
Well, protecting the library of the county.
Okay.
Andy's trial should be over shortly, so we have more time to.
Correct.
That'd be my suggestion, we hold off until we get more legal advice and we can get wrapped up.
Yeah, our county attorney's been in court all week, so we have a trial going on, so we haven't had a chance to talk to him. Pretty much.
I spoke with Cammie, the assistant county attorney, and she suggested having a clear public hearing just to gather more information. But I'm just saying from the DNR standpoint, I think from the insurance standpoint, when I'm talking to the county attorney's standpoint, we need some clarification on what improvements are to make sure it's safe. So it relieves us of our responsibility in case of impact.
Have we talked to ICAP guys up there, that their attorneys, and they have to say about it?
I've not spoken.
You can, right? You do that service?
I don't know if you want to take a vote or just consensus to take no action.
I just leave like we did last meeting, have one more public hearing, we've already got it scheduled, so. Unless you guys want to change it.
No, I want to talk to Andrew and leave it the way it is, make sure that it's all Greek to me. It's my first time in the firing squad here, no pun intended. I like to know what I'm doing.
Well, there's like it's been mentioned, there's a lot of people watching, so we want to do it right. So at the end of the day, it's going to take some time, and I guess that's where I'm at on it. I'm no big hurry to, I mean.
We don't have anything in front of us to approve yet.
Nope, that's true too.
Okay, so it will be, who's responsible to bring the proposal to us?
I think we need to decide what information we're requesting.
Okay.
So I'd say the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'd be seriously thinking and calling what information we need.
Well, this is good too, you know, I didn't, you know, we know what the layout's supposed to be and.
You know, we can look at the book and say all that, but I'm no expert to be able to sign off on it.
Is there an expert around that can give us?
Possibly, I think.
I mean, you guys are in that world, we're not, I mean.
Yeah.
Keith Brace from Huxley might be able to answer a lot of your questions. He's national champion.
Yeah, I been visiting with an attorney that I know that I'll submit once I talk to him one more time, that has dealt with matters like this, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're just looking for information because it's outside our comfort zone. I know how to plant corn, but I don't know how to shoot. So, and like I said, there's a lot of people watching, so we want to get it right or it'll affect a lot of ranges all over, you know, so that's where we're at. But anybody's name you can give us would be great, you know, because you guys are in that. And I'll reach out to some people too that I know that are in this.
In reality, if you were looking for an expert now, it might probably be the expert you would go to if you were in any other county now. Or anybody better than you did.
Well, I got a couple calls, you know, one being the DNR, to be honest with you. I mean, they've held shoots at Mike's range, so I think has already voted with their feet at one point in time. So I don't think they'd go host a statewide shoot there if it wasn't safe. So, but we'll try to get some names to you.
You know, we don't build a road without an engineer signing off. It's just the same deal. So that's where we're at. So.
The DNR maintains and builds shooting, you know, platforms themselves. So I mean, they obviously have to sign off on their own facilities. So talking to them and probably be a very good idea. They would be obviously an independent third party.
What happens between now and the next public hearing? Are the Vandenards able to use their range for their teams, or what are you guys, where are you guys at with that?
As my understanding, talking with the county attorney, we've not approved them, and so there's no liability on us should something happen. The county has no involvement at this point.
So it's kind of like what you guys have been doing. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just, until we have something to approve, we're just watching. So, I guess that's the way I look at it anyway, unless you look at it different.
But you're on your risk, not ours at this point.
At the last meeting, has there been a discussion between the two sides that we got a?
No, not really. I mean, we all met on Friday. We really didn't talk about anything.
Just for record, you and I spoke Thursday morning. And I told you the information I got from the DNR that it's going to require a site plan, and that's what they're all proposing.
We have something that would be ready very shortly.
And so we have to have an engineer or somebody sign off on it, or someone with authority to. I'm not sure. Our county attorney's been busy, so he's not had much time to interact with us since our last meeting, so.
Move on.
Move on. Thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you guys.
Oh, thank you. Nice talking with you. Sorry. Oh, it's good. Yeah. Thank you. What else would I do with a 12-year-old? You know?
With the trial that we're with the trial that we're
So I try to encourage him to keep moving.
the sheriff's there, don't push him off.
I'm insurance rich. I
They have made a rule in the building.
His name is Gene Mahaska. And Mahaska, N-O-S-C-O. And his, you want to see if I can just text you his contact info.
Okay. Yeah, why don't you do that?
He's an attorney on the paper. And he's working on medical stuff and so forth in the past. And the other guy, Chris, been working on it. So they can certify.
That's all we're looking for, somebody to say, hey.
Yeah. And that'd be Gene, he'd be the expert. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Morning, gentlemen. It's gonna be a little bit yet, guys. I think we're ready for number 8. Discussion with the Eddyville Fire Agency. Gene and Rick, you guys want to come on up?
I'm not really
Oh, sorry.
I'm Roger.
Roger. Morning, Gene.
Morning.
Steve.
Hey, how we doing?
Oh, living life.
Everybody let y'all work today.
I took off.
Kind of busy, ain't it?
What's your name, sir?
Roger Rodwell.
Oh.
Steve, can you turn that mic towards the, turn that mic towards the hole? There you go.
Can you hear us now?
Thanks for coming, gentlemen. What kind of started this? Gene texted me last November, questioning radios with this new system coming on that they didn't have any radios. Don't go into it. So at the 911 meeting, I brought that up to the 911 board, and if I understood it right, the 911 board said that you guys weren't located in Mahaska County, so we're not buying radios for those outside of our county, which is true, we're not. But it was understood that it was going to get back to you guys. So I came to your meeting last Tuesday, and asked if I can relay back to you, and it had not. There was a gentleman, there was an Eddyville City Council person there that said represented you guys. I was going to get back to you and tell you that, but if I understand right, they never came and talked to you about the radios.
Never been to one of our meetings at all.
And so, and then we got into discussion of really who you're owned by. And I understand you're owned by 5 different political subdivisions, two townships in Mahaska County, 2 townships, one in Monroe, one in Wapello, and the city of Eddyville itself. Is that correct?
Right.
And so you're owned by 5 different political subdivisions. And so I'm sure they have representatives that sit on your board.
Yes, we've got a 5-member board of the owners of the fire agency, which is East Moines, Harrison, and Mahaska, Columbia, and Wapello, Pleasant, and Monroe, and the city of Eddyville. We own the volunteer fire department down there in Eddyville.
The structure is just located in Eddyville, but you're actually owned by
Right.
five different political subdivisions.
It's just where the building got put up.
It's in the center of all the divisions, really.
Right, right.
And so I guess, do you guys have representation on the Monroe County 911 board?
Yeah.
You guys have representation on the Monroe-Wapello County board?
Yes.
So is there a reason you guys don't want to come to Mahaska County 911 board?
We were booted out. They elected the mayor to take my place that I had been a member since 1989 when we started this 911 board.
And if I remember right, the fire agency board appointed you to that board, right?
Right.
So
and we did not vote him off.
So the fire agency has never appointed the Eddyville representative to be your representative?
No, not to my knowledge.
Well, there was a letter sent to Mark Dolan, supervisor, that so stated that, and was signed by the board chairman, that I was the representative and the fire chief, Rick Smith, was the alternate for Mahaska County.
So it never was the Eddyville representative from Eddyville, it never was your voted member to represent you on the 911 board?
No.
Not since the 15th of April 2015. I think that's right. Yeah, October 15th, 2015. That was my last meeting.
But did your agency choose someone else to represent you guys on the 911 board for Mahaska County?
No.
I wasn't on that board at that time, but that's my knowledge, no.
Is Gene still the voting representative for 911 boards for your agency?
He's supposed to be.
Do you guys get invitations to the Mahaska County 911 board meetings?
No.
And the letter to Mark Dolan, chairman, was stipulated that, you know, for him to notify us when the meetings, we have never had any conversation on the Mahaska County 911 board since the 15th of 2015 of October. The representative that the city appointed themselves has never darkened the door at the fire station with any report or anything that what's going on up here. Not one thing. But the fire agency collects the tax dollars, they pay our bills, and keep everything running.
The agency is collecting a fee from the city of Eddyville, from the townships to perform fire protection, but you have no...
The city of Eddyville does not, they contract all of their public safety. And that, according to the Attorney General and Blake DeRucci at Homeland Security, they are a member, but a non-voting member because they contract all of their public safety. And that the Eddyville Fire Agency is a public entity and does have the right for the bill.
Correct. You guys are you're made up of political subdivisions. So it's my understanding, if I understand it right, your board can choose amongst your 5 members who represent you on the 901 boards. Yes. And so you guys are doing that with Walpole and Monroe County, just not invited to Mahaska County.
That's right.
I think I just wanted these guys to be aware of it.
But I spent 27 years, and I was one of them that got it started here.
911?
Yes. Bob Johnson and I was both put on here back when Beal and Diamond was the sheriff and the police chief, and to actually get what's here today. Been there ever since that got started. And then after we signed, I think it was in 89 when the 2080 was signed between everybody. Bob Johnson signed that, and after he signed that, then he resigned, and I was appointed to go to the board, and I have been here ever since, except since October 15th of 2015. So I was here 27 years. And the city was not interested or anything in those 27 years because nobody ever said anything.
Roger, which township do you represent?
East Des Moines in Mahaska County. And I'm also on the trustee board of East Des Moines Township.
You're a trustee and you're the representative for East Des Moines for the fire agency.
Right. Right.
Do you guys want to have representation on the 911 board?
Well, I think we ought to.
The code says you shall, I think.
Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, we still do. With Gene, he just got voted off of there, and we had no say-so in it as the agency board, fire agency board.
So everybody in the county that provides a public service, fire protection or ambulance service, has a vote on 911 board, is that right?
Well, it distinguishes between public agency and private. If you're a private agency, I don't believe you have voting membership.
Do we have a private agency in the county that's providing services?
Public agency for ambulance?
Yeah.
The hospital does, but they're private.
That's county-wide, that's taxed, isn't it?
Yeah, but they're owned by a private corporation.
I have a seat at the table there, right?
They do not.
So why don't these gentlemen have a seat at the table?
I don't have the answer for that. They should have, in my way of understanding.
You wanna come up, Davey? Davey's raising his hand.
Where does anybody get the right to kick somebody off and
the hospital's actually a county hospital, so they, but with the Eddyville, so when we took over the 911 board, emergency management.
Okay.
911 board still exists, but when we merged, we got to looking at the 911 board. And there was a lot of people on the board that had votes that shouldn't have votes. And we had to clean it up. There was Eddyville, and then there was the fire agency. And we went to Blake, trying to clarify and see.
Who's Blake?
He's with 911 at the state level.
Okay.
And Blake stated because the fire agency is technically a private fire service that contracts, that they didn't have, that it was the city that had the vote. That was from what Blake said.
The city's just contracting for the police, the fire, and the ambulance.
Correct. They still pay for those services, just like.
Just like Fremont just came to a number meeting and had said they don't have no longer have voting authority either.
On the day after that they took me off the board, I got an email from Blake DeRucci, the program manager, and he said, "Gene, I finally was able to speak to our Attorney General today. He agreed that the Eddyville Fire Agency should be considered public and a voting member on the 911 board restored."
So that was the day after, and I've never heard this or seen this, so I guess we
Well,
went.
this has been through this office right in here.
Okay, well, they didn't share with us though.
So do you have a letter from Blake?
We just met with them, and that was discussed with the chair of the 911 board at the time, so.
The problem was that the letter that I said that we sent to Supervisor Dolan, he turned it over to the county attorney, and the county attorney sat on it and did nothing whatsoever. One of our board members went to Dolan's church, and he knew everything about it, but the board did not know one thing. But the county attorney sat on it, did not do nothing with it. There's been nothing answered on that letter since it was sent, not one word.
Yeah, because I mean, if I'd have known about that, we would have brought it back up to the board. I have no problem with Eddyville being part of it. As far as the radio thing, I will add, after our meeting, I did reach out to Rick and talk to him and let him know what we were doing in the county. And I even asked him if he wanted me to come to the fire agency meeting and have that discussion with the group, and he told me that wasn't necessary, that he understood that we would be able to still talk to Eddyville moving forward.
When was that?
It was the day after our meeting, so I'd have to look at the exact date, but I called him and had a conversation with him, because I know there was some concern there about Eddyville being able to talk to Mahaska Center. And really, Eddyville's always kind of been they were UHF, now they're a different system than us currently. And we've always been able to make sure that we include that into our radio system. So we'll be able to still function with Eddyville, just like it is now. You guys actually talk on a different radio system than the rest of the county does, but it's built into our system. And if there was ever a mutual aid or something, we can patch those together. It'll still work within our system.
But if we go back to our decision, we're going to buy the entities that are located in Mahaska County. They're owned by 2 townships. They're owned by Eddyville's in part of Mahaska County. Why are these township people paying bills to 911, but that they don't get no benefit from it with the radios, like everybody else is going to get? So they're paying for everybody else's radios, but yet we're rejecting 2/5 of their own ownership.
So really the surcharge money is kind of broke up by the 911 areas. So we don't get all of the 911 that's in the county. It goes kind of to the service areas it's provided. Like I said, I have no problem providing them radios either, but where do we draw that line? We have 8 other departments that come into Mahaska County. Pella has a huge fire district in our county.
I understand that, but I'm fairly confident. Does the East Des Moines people who have phone lines, does that surcharge money come into Mahaska County?
I don't believe so. I'd have to check though for sure.
Does Harrison?
I know when you're in Lightning and you call 911, it goes to Pella. So
Harrison's the other part. And we provide service to West Des Moines.
Don't Pella have a representative on your board?
correct. But they're not getting radios.
But they do have a representative.
Correct.
But when the 911 call comes, it comes into the Mahaska County Center.
No.
all their calls go to Pella?
For the most part, yes. Occasionally we'll get one just because it was connected to a tower.
That's the way it's set up for, so all that surcharge money is going to Pella?
My understanding would be, yeah, anybody within that district that it goes there. Because we actually wish they would divert them to us, because our law enforcement's still responsible for them, but they're firing ambulances in Pella.
So if you're in Eddyville and you call, where does that call go?
Depends on where you're at. The school, the high school, we did some testing there, and it went to Wapello County. It's on the south side of the road, so.
And we got 3 streets in town, depends on if you're on the east side, it'll go to Wapello County, and if you're on the west side, it'll come up here. Because when they trunked all the systems, it was screwed up, and it was so screwed up that they just decided, we're not gonna try to fix it. And they're both in Wapello County. But yet, one side of the road will go to Mahaska and the other side will go to Wapello. And it's been that way ever since they trunked everything.
So has Eddyville always had a representative on your board?
Until, well, the
Not
question.
the fire, but the city. I understand the city.
The city has, yes. I mean, Gene was usually for the city though.
Okay.
Even on the EMA commission, Gene's been around for quite a while, so.
I've been on the department for 45 years.
And he used to represent both.
I guess I'm questioning why they took him off and put somebody else on then.
From the EMA side, because of the change in law as far as voting on the budget. So Gene would have to bring a council member or a mayor with him, and then the mayor just, I don't know, got more involved, I guess.
There's two different voting requirements for 911 and EMA. There's 2 different sets of people that have the authority to vote.
So now one board, anybody that's
EMA
designated
is the
can.
mayor, or an elected official,
Right.
or an appointed official.
But a 911 board, you have to have either fire protection service, ambulance service, or police protection. If I say police, ambulance, or fire.
Sounds like they both one ought to be on the EMA board and one ought to be on the 911 board.
They don't provide police service, we provide that, the sheriff does, so
Wapello County is, yeah.
why did we vote to,
For 911?
no, for
EMA is the mayor or their designee.
But on the 911 side, you have to provide one of the services. See, and that's what Fremont just came to our last meeting and said they no longer have the authority to vote because they don't provide any service. They contract it all out. Eddyville's doing the same thing, but they're still voting.
Fremont would be Cedar Township.
Right, and Cedar Township comes to the meeting.
For the fire protection.
Yeah, it was just brought to my attention that it used to be Fremont-owned equipment. So there was city equipment, and there was township equipment. So Fremont actually owned equipment, and so that's why they both had a vote. Well, it was brought to my attention that the township took over all the equipment, and they just paid the township now. So that would take away their vote. Now, if Gene wants to provide me with that letter, and I can get in touch with Blake again. Again, this is the first time I'm hearing this in 2015. I will gladly revisit Blake again and get things worked out and present that to the 911 board. I have no problem with it whatsoever.
Well, this is what we sent to Dole and the county attorney sat on. And that was December the 14th of 2015.
Yeah, I've never seen this.
Well, that's the reason you didn't see it, because the county attorney sat on it.
The only thing I would offer is if you guys want to be part of the 911 board and believe you have authority to do so, you're a township trustee, you have access to the county attorney's office. I would present the county attorney's office with all your information so they can work on getting your rights restored.
Well, I would hold off on that. We can move forward and I can talk with Blake and bring it up to the 911 board. Again, I have no problem with it whatsoever. If they have a vote, they should have a vote.
That's what I would think.
But you're more than welcome to go to the county attorney as well, too. I mean, if you don't feel...
I guess I don't realize I don't understand why they lost their vote.
It wasn't that they lost it. It was the understanding, my understanding anyway, that Gene was representing the city of Eddyville. Not the fire agency, but the city of Eddyville. And the city of Eddyville, and that night, I had nothing to do with the 911 board at that point. That night, John said he was the voice, he's the mayor, and he was the voice for Eddyville. So that's what changed that night. And then after I got involved with it, I went to the state and was like, okay, here's who we have as members, and I'm pretty sure most of these aren't supposed to, because we have Lighton on there. They had Lighton, they had Gilman Village. None of them provide any services, so they're not supposed to have a vote. So we cleaned it up, we made it right. And when it came down to Eddyville City versus Eddyville Agency, I was informed by Blake that because the agency was a private agency made up of, that just responded to these areas, that they did not have the vote, that it was the city that did. So that's what I went off of. And again, had I known this or seen this, I would have gladly.
Because the attorney was furnished with that Blake, the day after I was taken off, that Blake and the Attorney General both said that we were a public entity and that we had a vote on the 911 board.
I think you do. But that's why I never understood why you never show up. But so I appreciate. We're not going to get it resolved today, I don't think.
You can take a copy of that. I need that back.
Okay, I'll just take a copy of my phone.
And if you're a township and you guys want to participate, I mean, the code basically says you shall. I mean, that's that you're providing a service.
Well, I think we'll need to, again, run that by Blake, because if you go back to the Eddyville, Eddyville's paying the agency, so if the agency's getting the vote and Eddyville's not because they're paying for the service, and I think it'd be the same for the townships as well. They're paying for the service through another, so.
It's no different than Fremont's paying for a service.
But they don't have a vote anymore.
So why does Eddyville have a vote?
Because that's what Blake told us.
But if Blake puts us back, then the mayor does not have.
Exactly. Then we would take Eddyville City off.
But if you've got political subdivisions that are owners, somebody has to own this operation. Who's the owners?
The 5 entities.
East Township and Harrison Township in Mahaska County, and part of Eddyville is part of ownership in Mahaska County. So
there's 5 owners.
So you have 5 political subdivisions that are owners. This isn't privately owned.
No. It's taxpayer funded.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think to have voting authority, you have to be a public-owned entity. And so a political subdivision is a public-owned entity. The town is a public-owned entity, I think. And so what I'm saying is that when you put all 5 of you together, there's 5 public entities. I think you 5 public entities get to decide, in my opinion, who would represent you at a 911 board. And that goes back to, you said you had representation in Monroe County, you had representation at Wapello County, you have the representation from Mahaska County. The law is the same all 3 counties.
But see,
the law doesn't change between Mahaska County, Monroe County, and Wapello County. This is a state law. It's across the entire 3 counties.
When the mayor got elected up here that night, he went to the next 911 board meeting in Wapello County, and they told him, that's fine, you're welcome to be here, but you don't have a vote.
So do you serve on, you said you serve on Wapello and Monroe County?
Yeah.
And you vote there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the alternate at Monroe County, but in 2 weeks I'll be the representative for Monroe County too.
Okay.
Thanks for your conversation, gentlemen. I don't have anything else to say. I think it needs to be looked at to make sure it's been done correctly.
Well, it just, after the meeting that night that I was taken off, I had 4 other entities come to me and said, well, I got a raw deal. But I told those individuals, don't say nothing to me now, because when they open a meeting, you could have said something. It doesn't do me any good to say, well, this shouldn't have happened. You allowed it to happen because you didn't say anything in an open meeting. But I've got 45 years of my life into this, and I hope one of these days I get stupid that I finally quit it. But right now, I'm still plugging in one foot after the other.
I'm just going back to Roger. He's part of the owner. Because you don't represent, do you represent any particular township or city?
No.
Okay, so you're part of the owner. Right. Are you guys wanting representation on this board, on the 911 board?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's what we need to get to, you guys doing your responsibilities and having representation, I think.
I represent them.
Correct.
Right.
But the owners in my opinion, have got to want to be there in order to send you. But it's their responsibility by the code to be there to do the job. So.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
guys.
you.
Gentlemen.
You too.
See you later.
Rouse. See it spelled that way, they might not want to claim me, or I don't want to claim them, but we're both.
Thanks for coming, gentlemen.
You bet, thanks. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you. Mike, Jim Lane.
Steve,
All right.
can you pull that mic back over if you don't mind? Thank you.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning, Jeremiah. Mike.
We got on the agenda to approve and authorize signature on secondary road fiscal year 20 DOT budget, 5-year construction plan.
Copy for you guys, who has the original. In the budget, basically mirrors our local county budget.
Just for clarity, this is you guys' first time going through this. Do you want to explain why we have to do this? I have a code that requires us to have a 5-year plan and all this stuff.
Yeah, Jeremiah's probably better versed at the ins and outs.
The DOT budget, going back first, like Mike said, it mirrors your county budget that you guys already approved here in the county. The DOT requires the secondary roads to also submit a budget. And so we turn around and take the county budget, plug it into, there's a program called TPMS, and we put it in with all the revenues and the expenditures, and then take a button so the DOT can review it and look at it for what's coming out of the secondary road fund, the 20 fund. The biggest difference between your county budget and this budget is when you guys bonded to do that FM project a couple years ago, last summer, to service the bond payment, secondary roads pays that principal and interest payment. It necessarily isn't a DOT project, it's already been done, so the DOT doesn't need to see that. So what you'll see is the way that resolution was set up was the bond was going to be paid, the principal and interest was going to be paid out of the lost money. So the difference between the DOT budget and the one up the county is, you'll see, is we just reduced the amount of local option sales tax by what the general option service between the principal and interest payment was. So the local option sales tax revenue was technically $700,000 this year, but we just subtracted the general bonds principal and interest payment. Every other number would be correspond to your county budget. And that is because the DOT's not interested in, we've called and talked to multiple people, and they don't necessarily need to see that general bond payment because it's not necessarily a secondary roads coming through the state. It's just money that you guys locally brought in through loss and is going right back out to service the bond. So that'd be the biggest difference you see between your budget that you guys approved previously to now.
Local option sales tax, $472,000, was $720. Why is that now? Sue tried to explain it the other day, but I don't quite understand it yet.
This number here, 472, your local option sales tax, from what I understand, the numbers we got was going to be roughly 700,000. 700, is that right, Sue?
I think we put in 700,000.
Yes. So that's the local option sales tax that you guys have.
Why doesn't it be next year 472?
because we reduced your general bond that you guys got a year ago to do that project. The principal interest on it was $275, or no, I'm sorry, $185, and the interest was $42,005 or something. So you add those numbers up and you subtract it from the 720.
Okay.
The reason being, we went to the state and said, which account number do we put this in? Because the state looks at 70, which is your administrative engineering, your 71, which is roadway maintenance, 72, general roadway, and your 20, which is construction. And they said that bond payment does not fit in any of those 4 items. So because it's not, take it out of whatever you get as your local option. Because in all reality, you know, this could be done completely at the beginning. It doesn't need to go through the DOT side. So we just show the revenue of less of the option, the principal and interest payment. So that'd be the only number that was different out of your county budget that you guys already approved. And then going back to the 5-year construction program, Mark was saying, and Mike, the state requires us to look at a 5-year to plan ahead. And so every year the county is, they obligate certain amounts of money through your FM account and through your highway bridge program monies. So based on that, the DOT wants to know, what are you planning on doing with those monies? And so we, county secondary roads levels, we look at our forecast and say, well, we know this bridge project's coming, or we know this road project's coming, this is how much money we propose to spend. So quite honestly, your guys' engineering staff, Rodwell and Reed and Ed and everybody sat down and they kind of go through these because they know you guys' projects way better than I can even think about it. So you break it up in fiscal years. So the accomplishment year now is the fiscal year 2020, and then the first, second, third, fourth. So that's why they call it 5-year your accomplishment, and then the 4 years beyond that. So you'll look through there and like the accomplishment year, there's 3 projects that we propose. The unfortunate part about this whole process is 5 years is a long ways out there. We never know what bridge is going to get something happen to it, or what road is going to completely need to be done before something else because of something happening to it. So a lot of times of course you want to focus heavy on that first year because that's what you're really anticipating doing, and that's what's moving forward because you've already usually gone through your environmental processes and archaeological and engineering design. And then the rest of them are kind of things you're looking at and getting proposed. And then the other thing you're looking at is, you know what we're getting in, for instance, every year, what the county, our highway bridge program money is roughly $460,000 a year attributed to Mahaska County. The FM monies are around $1 million a year coming. So we try to stay fiscally constrained. They allow you to go certain years in the hole.
6 years for bridges and 3 for farm parks.
You can plan ahead. So Mike sat down and went through all those numbers and made sure we're fiscally constrained with the projects you see on here. Just as a side note, it's also interesting to see, if you look in there, the first 2 bridges that you have on the accomplishment year 2020 are the bridges listed out there, and the estimate right now is $700,000. Mahaska County gets $460,000 a year from the state to do bridges. It kind of goes backwards real quick.
Yeah, it runs out pretty quick.
So I'll let Mike speak to the projects.
I know there's a few projects that Dave already had programmed, using at the time when he put them in here. I know we were talking about potential bonding with the wind farm. I don't know where that's at, so I left those projects in, and they're out, a couple years out on the program, so those can be adjusted as we move forward. And potential funding sources become available or don't become available, however that works out. So, yeah, as we move on, it won't be uncommon for some of these projects probably to get pushed back or eliminated. Back to life.
There's always a possibility one from back here could have to be moved ahead because of the.
Or there could be one that's not even on here, have to get put on.
Okay.
And it's, we've had to do that before, it's just a amendment process that you go through and do, it's not huge, not a huge ordeal to do, because we have had to do that before. Yeah, basically it's the best guess of what we're gonna do the next 5 years.
Okay.
This Tingle Road, is that, think gonna be this year?
That will be, I believe in fiscal year 2021, before we have, well, actually, it'll be let this year, let spring is when we're looking at letting that, so, yeah, it'll be in the FY '20 year. But no, the construction more than likely won't be till '21. Or we'll at least run into fiscal year '21.
It could be done after July of next year if the funding was there.
Yeah, and I think the DOT will allow a little wiggle room on when you're close to the beginning and end of a fiscal year.
And we're borrowed ahead 2 years from the market with the Glendale Road, or with the G71.
With G71. We should be, don't quote me, at the end of this year, have 2.4 million available at the end of this year. And we can borrow ahead. So that basically we're 2 million in the hole. We can borrow ahead another year. That'll give us 3.5 million.
Borrowed in the hole.
Borrowed in the hole.
So how are you gonna do the next, you gonna do the next road then, or you got in the
You
hole?
won't.
I was gonna say.
You won't without supplementing it with local funds.
Take $1 million tomorrow.
Basically.
They got 4.8 miles of it. Same with that bridge when you got costing 700,000, you got 460.
We can use the full 700,000 of our federal bridge funds, but we're only allowed to borrow ahead 6 years in that funding hole. So at the end of this 5-year program, we've got about 800,000 left that we could borrow ahead again for an unknown bridge collapse. Again, as we move forward, we can always move projects in and out.
If you look at the plan next year, there'll be different things on it,
Oh, yeah.
because things fall apart on the 3, 4, and 5 years out that we do not receive. I don't see it here. I don't know what Mother Nature will do, do you? That, South F project you had, that Burlington Road, where's it?
Burlington Road is still on here. It's a local funded. Yep.
Have you spoken with Oscar? Are they definitely figuring on that, or? Is that
I haven't spoken in great detail with them.
Okay.
But yeah, it's still a locally funded project. FY21.
You just come from direct property tax there?
Yep.
I know they, Oskaloosa got it South F done.
Yeah.
And University Park would like to have the Burlington Road finished.
Yeah. And next year at this time, it might be a totally different scope of a project.
And these numbers in here are based on estimates too, you know, we can only put out what we see happening in the bidding world today, but something major happened in the world where steel prices jump way up, I mean, our numbers could be off, or they could go the opposite way too, which never ever goes that way, but we're trying to be realistic in the numbers we put in there to help stay fiscally constrained throughout the 5-year budgeting. But, I mean, we've had projects in Mineral County where we estimate, you know, $1 million and it comes in 1.3 million because either there wasn't enough bidders or prices jumped up tremendously between the time we put this together and the bids in 9 months, so.
Questions, concerns?
Need a motion to approve and authorize signature on secondary road fiscal year 20 DOT budget, 5-year construction plan.
I move we approve and authorize signature on the secondary road for year 20 DOT budget and 5-year construction plan.
I second that.
A motion, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that's passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys want to stay here? We're going to talk about this. On the next thing is approve agreement with secondary road, local 3522 to temporarily move deadline to have bank time, or to have bank comp time below 24 hours by November 1, 2019, then we'll return to normal next year. This was a recommendation from the union. With the winter we've had, we've got a significant amount of overtime, and comp hours accumulated. Normally that's supposed to be down within 24 hours by July 1st. We're already in the middle of April. And stuff is, if you call it normal yet.
No, I wouldn't.
And so, what they requested, and I appreciate them working with us, because otherwise you guys will have a lot of people off before July 1 to even do anything. And so they've requested, and I asked them to put it in contract in writing, so it's in no discussion later of who said what said. But they're just requesting it, give them until November 1st to get the individual comp time down to the 24 hours like the contract in Hendrick states. And I think it's a good idea. It's a better, they can manage time better, jobs better.
Hopefully things will start to slow down in July and August.
Yeah. We did the same in Monroe County. What you're gonna run into is the good thing about comp time is you can use it and not necessarily pay someone out. So I mean, the budget's already hurting because of this winter and what we've seen for overtime. So allowing someone to use it as comp time is a good thing. It's just they have to get it down before July 1st. Between now and July 1st, you have a lot of people off. Right. And this is about the time you need them. You know, there'll be more dry times in July when it's not as.
Still got work to do.
Yeah, there's never a shortage of that.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with the secondary road union.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. You're welcome to stay and sit if you want, but we need to approve the minutes of April 1 and April 4.
I move to approve the minutes of April 1 and 4.
Second that.
Any further discussion, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. They accept the third quarter report from Veterans Affairs.
Now you just skipped the third quarter reports.
Yeah, number 12, accept third quarter reports of Veterans Affairs.
Okay. Okay.
Should have sheriff and recorder.
Yeah, you want to do them as a whole? Let's take all three of them together. They've all been sent, they've all been, let's look at the accepting third quarter reports for Veterans Affairs, for the sheriff and the recorder's office.
I make a motion that we accept the third quarter reports.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of accepting the reports, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We got an appointment here to Veterans Affairs Commission for Ted Smith. He's been serving. He's requested, and the commission also approved him to another 3-year term, which will expire on June 30 of 22.
I move we take recommendation of the Mahaska County Veterans Affairs Commission to appoint Ted Smith.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. We've had our audit out. Then we've all had a chance to look at it. So we need a motion to accept the completed Mahaska County audit for fiscal year 18.
I make a motion to accept the audit for fiscal year 2018. Support.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. 2080 agreement between Stevens Memorial Animal Shelter, Mahaska County, and the Humane Society.
An agreement. I don't, have you had the item?
I've not seen anything.
Nope. It's table. I talked to Jason one day, and I talked to Jeannie one night, and trying to get to it, and I haven't seen anything to it.
Okay. Table it. I guess for the record, then we'll just put no action taken.
Table.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Committee reports.
Went to the Indian Hills Development down here there last Wednesday, and the railroad situation's quite serious with it. They get cold Wyoming here, and I think Mahaska County gets a lot. And then I went down to out here to the Lacey Complex. That's quite a deal out there. They're gonna be wanting to talk to us about roads construction out there, help there too, so. Carl would like to visit with the board sometime later on. We're pretty busy right now, but later on, so. That's about it, I guess.
I have nothing.
Public comments. Seeing none? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. We have a work session scheduled.